just everybody. By the method we use every year, I'm going to think of a number between 1 and 10, like Johnny Carson, used to do with the. And I am going to ask each of the candidates to tell me what number I'm thinking of, and the one that comes closest to the number I'm thinking of wins the coin toss. So I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Ms. Tonini?
7.
7. Mr. Lapoli?
1.
1. All right. The number was 3, so I believe that 1 is closer to 3. Would you like to begin or end?
I'm going to defer on that one, and I'll take it up in the second half.
Okay, so that means Anita is going to begin.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Sam Polton, Chairman of the Democratic Town Committee of Chelmsford. Welcome to our candidates' debate. Tonight's debate is being broadcast live on Chelmsford Telecommunication. Channel, I don't know. Maybe somebody can hold up fingers on what channel we're on. Channel 99 on Comcast and on 980 WCAP. So if you're listening on TV, turn on your radio, and if you're listening on the radio, turn on your television. I want to thank the Chelmsford Police for allowing us to use the police training room. I want to thank the candidates for accepting our invitation, and I want to thank the various members of the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee. If you could raise your hands, committee members, and we'll get a round of applause for the committee members here. Please, a round of applause. And we will begin our debate with a salute to the symbol of the great country that allows us to assemble like this and debate our politics. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Democratic Town Committee is committed to promoting good government and encouraging people to create that good government by willingly throwing their hats in the ring and, more importantly, coming out and vote for those who do. This is a nonpartisan debate. We have no position on the candidates, and as moderator, I will ask all questions as they're written, as long as they are appropriate and are not designed to promote rancor. I again encourage you to write down your questions and send them forward to a member of the committee. The format tonight will be a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate, followed by 2 or 3 rounds of questions. The rounds will include questions from the audience, questions candidate to candidate, and questions from the press. We have with us the Lowell Sun and 980 WCAP. I will introduce the members of the press when they're called upon to ask their questions. At the end of each round, we'll reset and do it all over again. I have questions already in my hand, and we will begin the debate by having Ms. Tonini answer the first question.
Did you want to do an opening?
Oh, I'm sorry. You'll also realize that as we do this, the person in the room who knows the least about what's going on will be the moderator. And I rely on the members of the committee to keep me focused. So, the coin toss went to Mr. Lapoli, who decided to defer. So the opening statement is yours, Anita.
Great, thank you. My name is Anita Tonini. I was born and raised in Chelmsford and am a product of the Chelmsford Public Schools. I am married with 2 children, Andre, who attends Center, and Dante, who attends McCarthy. My parents immigrated to the U.S. and settled in Chelmsford. They are now both retired and still reside in Chelmsford. I also have a sister who is married with 2 children, also living in town, and she is a science teacher at CHS. I received my bachelor's degree in finance and accounting, as well as my MBA from UMass Lowell. I have over 20 years of senior financial accounting experience. I am brought into startup environments to fix the financial organization, streamline back office operations, and put in proper controls in place. I work closely with CEOs to ensure that they have accurate financial information, not only to make business decisions, but also to drive the company to achieve its strategic goals. My profession requires transparency and frequent communication to its stakeholders. I am in the boardroom, and I am responsible for communicating the financial results of the company. Finally, I know how to raise money. I've raised over $40 million. I do this by advocating for my companies, and I can do this for the school system as well. I understand the issues of Chapter 70 and am willing to work with the DESE and the Commission to review the foundation budget. Having someone with my expertise on the school committee while we are transitioning administrations is vital in ensuring that we do not slip back to old practices, and also provides a much-needed layer of inspection. I want to work with other school committee members to deliver the kind of quality education parents and students expect that I benefited from so greatly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lapoli?
Thank you. Hello, my name is Sal Lupoli, 47 Grandview. I'm a product of Chelmsford School Systems. I have here my lovely wife, Katie, and my 2 children, Sal and Mary. Several friends here. On behalf of my family, I want to thank you for being so loyal to Chelmsford, because the people in this room are exactly that. We are all loyal to Chelmsford, and we want what is best for our #1 asset, which is our children. Because if we don't educate our children properly, there'll be no future of Chelmsford. There'll be no tax base of Chelmsford. People in this room will continue to pay more and more taxes if we don't continue to take the #1 asset that we have, which is our children, and fund them correctly, and make sure they have the best education. What can I tell you about me? I can tell you this: I'm an extremely passionate person about this town. Who I am is where I came from. I came from Chelmsford. I came from my mother and my father, Jeanette and Nicholas Lupoli, and they instilled values in me. They instilled loyalty in me, and that's what I have for Chelmsford. I have loyalty for your children. I've proved myself time and time again. For over 10 years, I've invested at 0 cost my time, my energy, and my commitment to our children. Not just coaching children, but mentoring the kids, making sure they stayed on the right path, going into the school systems and talking to DECA, and talking to the marketing programs, and seeing how we can make sure our kids get a better understanding. I've done that for the people of the town of Chelmsford right now. I've done that for our kids because I believe in our kids. I believe, I'm passionate. I want to be held responsible. I want you to hold me accountable when I become a school committee member. I want to work hard. I want to face tough challenges. I want to use integrity to make sure that our kids have everything they have coming. And I want to use my influences with state legislators to make sure your kids get what they got coming. Thank you.
Thank you. We've now heard opening statements, and it's time for questions. The first question will be answered first by Mr. Lapoli. With the town school population trending down, 466 fewer students over 5 years, is it realistic that teacher/administration positions be affected? And I assume the asker means affected downward.
Could you help me with that last downward? In what context?
I think to summarize the question, is it realistic that with fewer students, we should expect fewer positions?
In business, there's only so much you can cut. The fewer the students doesn't necessarily correlate to fewer teachers. As a matter of fact, I think we're going in the wrong direction. I think when we start cutting teachers or postponing positions or eliminating positions, I think we're doing a disservice for our kids. Being told that 25 is the new average or maybe 27 is the new average, I've spoken to your teachers. As a matter of fact, I've called every single principal in our district. That was one of the first things I did. And I spoke to some of those principals, and they said to me, and teachers, Sal, we cannot be effective at 25, at 26, and 27, because there's no guarantee that you can lock it down at 25. So that means our students, with the elimination of what happened over at McCarthy, our students now in that 5th grade could potentially be at 27 or 28 or 29. The teachers, not me, not the people in this room, the people that we have faith on, the people that we believe in, they've said to us that it can't be done effective. We cannot treat our children like cattle and move them in and just because there's a certain number expect them to all learn. We have kids with special problems. They need special attention. And a teacher can only go so far. So what my opinion is this. There's a certain number that you just can't cut anymore. And it doesn't matter if there's 25 or 23 or 23. Enough is enough about cutting. Let's find other ways in the state of Massachusetts to raise money for our kids. This is not about eliminating teachers or eliminating services. We can't do this. Last night I was told, I listened to hear, why don't we cut technology a little bit more? I spoke to Anne Marie Fury today, and she said, Sal, I can't cut anymore. I'm at my limit. If we cut more, we're going to affect these kids. I think what we should do is ask the question to the people that make and take care of our children before we just say it out loud. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopoli. Ms. Tanini?
Sure. So you're always looking at the population, right? And you need to adjust, and you can adjust through natural attrition, meaning maybe a teacher retires, or there's a vacancy and you don't fill it. So that helps you manage your budget all along while keeping the class sizes acceptable. The other thing to do when the population decreases is we have school choice. Is increase, if we don't want to drop the teacher numbers, increase the number of students we allow to come into the school. And we get paid for that. And that's another way of managing both the size of the classrooms and our budget responsibly.
Thank you, Ms. Tanini. Next question, and we will ask Ms. Tanini to answer first. The asker says, I believe that day-long kindergarten is a benefit that Chelmsford cannot currently afford. If elected, will you pursue this program? And if so, how will you obtain funding? Thanks. So
That's
you
a great
already
question.
know how the asker feels. They want to know if you will support day-long kindergarten.
Yeah, I think it's important to bring full-day kindergarten to Chelmsford. We're one of 10 districts that doesn't currently have it, and we need to look at it. But we need to look at it, we need to look at our budget and figure out where we can right-size, and I mean right-size, making sure we have right contracts, we're optimizing our dollars so we can afford to offer full-day kindergarten. North Andover, I believe, first to do this, what they did is they put in a paid portion of it, and they have since this year gone off of the paid. They were able to absorb it, put it in, parents paid for it for the first year, and now they have it fully in their budget. So we need to look at how to get this, and we need to come up with a plan. Unfortunately, we're coming out of a bit of a mess, and I think it's, we need to bring in a new administration. I think, things need to be looked at a little bit closer and see where we can put it in the coming years.
Thank you. Mr. Lopoli?
Everybody knows that I'm passionate about early education. I'm passionate about kindergarten. I mean, it's a little bit of an embarrassment that Chelmsford, which was known for schools and education, doesn't have full-day kindergarten. What does that mean? That means we have some kids that are paying for full-day kindergarten and some kids that can't afford it right now. That means when they hit the first grade, they're not level anymore, are they? We have some kids with an education and some kids that don't. That's not okay with me. It's not okay with the people of Chelmsford. But I'll tell you what I won't do. I'm not going to put the burden on the backs of the taxpayers and charge them for their children to go to public school. That's not going to happen. That is not the solution, to charge people. We did a survey several years ago. This was already discussed. It was voted down unanimously. People do not want to pay for early education. I will not, and I do not think it's the best effort to our community to charge the taxpayer to fund early education. We can do it other ways. We can do it smarter ways. Within Chapter 70, we get money if we have full-day kindergarten. We're giving away grants. We gave 122,000 Grant 701 away because we don't have it. In Chapter 70, we will receive a benefit if we find a way to full-day kindergarten and fund it. Today, because I'm committed, because this has always been about leadership. This is not about accounting, or this is not about finances anymore. And today, more than ever, we need leadership. It's always been about crafting a plan. Today, I spoke with the Speaker of the House. Today, I spoke with the Chairman of the Ways and Means. And I said, what are we going to do for our town? How are we going to help fund full-day kindergarten? And you know what they said? Sal, we're listening. Tell us, let's sit down and talk about it. That's how you do it. Not on the backs of the taxpayers by charging them for a public education.
Thank you, Mr. Lapoli. Next question, we'll go to you first. Do you support PARCC testing, P-A-R-C-C, and Common Core? Why or why not?
Well, first of all, PARCC was supposed to be instituted in 2015, and we already took a vote, and we said we're not going to do it in 2015. There's many clear differences between PARCC and MCAS. We were on our way as a community, as a state, to fund MCAS in the same premise that they do with PARCC, using computers. We were on that way. We couldn't afford the computers for the state of Massachusetts. The only reason we're switching to PARCC is because the federal government stepped in and said, we're going to give you $188 million, many states, and we're going to help you switch over to PARCC. I'm going to tell you what's wrong with PARCC. The questions are tough. They're hard for our kids. This is already documented. They're tough for our kids. It's hard to understand what the questions are. What's good about PARCC? They use a computer to get that data. And that data is collected and sent right to our teachers or administration, and they can teach us better based off of that. That's a good thing. But what's a bad thing? The computers are unfunded. It's an unfunded mandate. That means we have to pay for the computers right now. So right now, how do I feel? I don't think Massachusetts, with PARCC, which is creating a baseline for the entire country, I think Massachusetts is already way up here in education. If you create that baseline, all you're going to be doing is bringing that testing down to a lower level. I don't want to do that to our children. At this point, I feel MCAS, with an investment in technology in the future, is the right way to go. And I'm not too excited about the $200 million the government gave us. I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is our kids testing and being the best they can and being ready for college. MCAS can help us do that. PARCC is going to bring that whole level down. It's going to bring our kids down, and I'm not in favor of that. Massachusetts is special. The town of Chelmsford is special. We deserve better.
Thank you. Ms. Danini.
So fundamentally, I have an issue with the federal government telling the state of Massachusetts how to administer education. Massachusetts has always been a leader. The country is very diverse. The needs of Massachusetts is very different than students coming out of, say, Alabama or Mississippi. Each state is very different. So fundamentally, I have a problem of trying to unify that education. I think our Massachusetts and our educators know best. They did adopt it, and I believe some 40-some-odd states have adopted it. But since then, they have pulled out. In Massachusetts, one of the last 10 or so that are still looking at it. Governor Baker now has created a team to reevaluate it. At the end of the day, it's based off of what the governor and his committee decide is best for us. But as a parent, I'm not a big fan of the computerized testing. My kids are taking MCAS now. I've got a 3rd grader and a 5th grader. And what concerns me about the computerized testing, the cost alone, is one thing. But just the fact of my kids are not fast on the computer, nor do I want them being fast, nor do I give them access to have a computer today. And I don't want the school or the curriculum, I don't want them taking away a half an hour of learning how to read and write to teach them how to type so they can do well on a computer. I think it's fundamentally at a younger age, especially the elementary and middle schoolers, I think it's very important that we still stick to the fundamentals. So I'm not even a big fan of it all being on the computers.
Thank you very much. All right, at this point, we are going to go to the second portion of the format, and that is candidate-to-candidate questions. And I have in front of me more than 4 dozen questions. So with the indulgence of the candidates, I'm going to ask that from now forward, we limit our responses to 1 minute. So, Ms. Zanini, you may go first in asking Mr. Lipoli a question. Sal, you'll have a minute to respond.
Okay. If there were circumstances in which the proceeds from renting out the turf fields doesn't cover the debt obligation, $110,000, where would this money come from?
A question about the turf fields. Okay. I'm passionate about the turf fields. I think what the turf fields represent to our kids is a good thing. I think right now, if you look on the turf fields today, we had our children playing on the fields. That's a good thing. Right now, there are schools throughout the state of Massachusetts that are foregoing programs or canceling programs because their kids can't get on the field. Just to let you know, the turf fields, prior to them, we had grass fields. Your children were getting hurt. And I don't think anybody remembers that. Our kids were getting hurt. So am I an advocate of the turf fields? I am. Do I know how things are going to get funded? Well, woulda, shoulda, coulda, if. All I know is in the first year we made a profit. So I can't tell you where the second year is. We're not done yet. The town of Chelmsford personally asked me to help raise $500,000, and I did what my town asked me in less than 7 months. I didn't ask. I didn't tell them what to do with it. I didn't touch the money. You know what I did? I did what was best for our kids. And right now, our kids are playing a sport because you have turf fields.
Thank you. Mr. Lipoli?
Can I
Sure.
rebuttal? I get a rebuttal to that?
For right now, I'll allow a 30-second rebuttal.
Okay, well, the answer is it comes out of the school operating budget. We have a payment, we have rented the turf fields, it's a $110,000 payment this year. We've rented and have proceeds of $83,000. We're short $27,000, and the next payment is due in May.
And I'll allow Mr. Lipoli 15 seconds to close.
Okay, so I think it ends in June. So we had the worst winter we've ever had in our life. People are lining up right now today. Today, as we speak, the athletic director is renting the fields to outside parties to generate revenues. So there's no question about it. We have until June to raise the money. We're 3/4 of the way there, and I'm telling you, if we keep this up and we continue to work hard, we'll surpass that and make money.
Thank you.
It's not an if. Let's not talk about ifs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lipoli, you may ask Ms. Tanini a question.
You know, I've said all along that this was a leadership issue. As a result of today, we don't have a business manager. We don't have a principal at the high school, which is one of the most important positions you could have. We don't have a superintendent. My opinion has always been that this is leadership and we need to find a solution. So as of today, I've yet to hear a plan that I've put forth, but I'd like to know what your plan is of moving today. What's your next move, Anita?
My personal next move, what I think they should be doing? So the superintendent has given his notice. He's resigning as of the end of the year. The principal's still in place. They need to put in an interim superintendent, and you can get that out of the DESE. They have them listed up there, and you can reach out and get one put in immediately. Then we need to look and recruit for a superintendent. You can get a contractor in for the business manager, and I would recommend first hiring the superintendent and letting the superintendent bring in the people that he needs.
Mr. Lipoli,
My plan is simple.
15 seconds.
My plan is simple. I've already spoken to the assistant superintendent, the union presidents, the HR department, the SPED department, the tech department, the business manager, all today. What do we need to do tomorrow? And it's not to find interim people in months from now. What are we doing tomorrow? How do we stop this panic that's taking place? That's what I would do immediately.
Anything further, Ms. Tanini?
Okay, thanks.
All right. Ms. Tanini, a question for Mr. Lipoli.
Another one? Why don't we go through all of yours first? You've got a lot more.
Well, I know I do, but with all due respect, when you're elected to the school
All
committee, you'll have a
right.
vote, and tonight
Okay.
you don't.
All right, okay. All right. You previously stated that you would not run this year if Nick DeSilvio had not stepped down. I would have regardless. What is the reason that you would not have challenged Nick?
I don't understand the question.
She, to summarize, you had announced that you would not run if one of the members of the school committee, Nick, had
Not stepped down.
not stepped down. Why?
I have to tell you a very personal thing. Anita and I had this conversation before. I had a conversation only a few days ago. Let me shed some light on something that's very personal that I wanted to stay away. My dear friends and family understand why. It's been asked several times, Sal, why didn't you get in the race early? Why didn't you get in the race in fall? Everybody, you knew there was a problem. Well, I've been in the race for 10 years. I've been here for 10 years with you guys shoulder to shoulder. My mother passed away in the fall. The greatest person in my life passed away. She broke my heart. I was disoriented. I didn't know if it was AM or PM. It took me several months to come out of it. She passed away in the late fall. So I apologize that I didn't get into the race early. I apologize for the situation. Anita, you and I had that discussion, a very personal discussion about that. But to my point, I am in this race. I don't know what you're talking about. When I came out of this terrible funk I was in, I jumped in with both feet. When I realized what would happen and I could use my expertise, I jumped in for our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Lapoli. Anything?
I'm good.
Okay. At this point, I believe we've equaled out on our questions.
No, Sal needs
No,
to ask
I'm
me a
sorry.
question.
Thank you again. Mr. Lapoli has a question. I'm sure Mr. Lapoli has a question.
If there was ever a time for a break, it's probably now.
Well, that's what I was feeling, but you may if you wish. I think we're going to go to the press, and I'll allow Mr. Lapoli
No,
an
you know
extra,
what?
an
No,
extra
no,
question
no,
in the
I'm
next
good.
round.
I'm good. I'm good. I want to tell you. I want to ask a question. Last night at the school committee hearing. At the school committee hearing, you said that we should go to the technology department and we should see how much more we could slash out of the technology department. Now, that's a strong statement, and that's a bold statement. Did you speak to the technology department? Did you speak to one of the most exciting directors that we have in Anne Marie Fury? I spoke to her today. Did you speak to her and ask about cutting her budget even more?
So, no, to answer the question directly, I did not speak to her, but I look at the numbers, and the numbers do the talking for me. And when I evaluate and I go through the numbers, we're looking for on a $53 million budget, to save those two teachers' salaries, we're looking for 0.2%. 0.2%. So, I opened up the budget book and went through and just quickly. One of the first things you do in business is technology. You look at your licenses, you look at your outsourced contracts, all of that. I did notice what caught my eye, and I did mention this last night. I said technology and contracts was sub-cost, the substitution cost. Now, we are utilizing Kelly Services. It's a 30% premium. When you look at what was forecasted for 15, it was $655,000. They increased that 16 to $770,000, an increase of 17%. We could easily gain, just by math alone, that increase doesn't make any sense. We should be saving money. That alone will give us $60,000 towards
Our
Sorry,
kids, just
one moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard the bell. I'm sorry.
With
With all due
It's
respect.
sort of, just to let everybody in the audience know, as a former teacher, my students always knew that just because the bell rang didn't mean the class was dismissed. So, rebuttal.
With all due respect, my kids aren't numbers. Our kids aren't numbers. This is not about numbers. This is not about cutting budgets. This is not about saving money. First of all, go to the technology. Realize that she already slashed $136,000 and didn't take in an extra person, which saved another $40,000. There's no more money left. Please respect this situation. This is not an analytical solution to a problem. These people have pulses. This is about our kids. This is not an analytical solution. This is about our kids.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to invite the members of the press, Mr. Lewis from the Lowell Sun, and Mr. Whiting from 980 WCAP. I hope I got the two names right. And we'll begin with the Lowell Sun. Mr. Lewis, a question for the two candidates.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, it's Brendan Lewis, Lowell Sun. I guess just a small thing. I noticed at the last selectmen meeting, enrollment in Neshoba Valley Tech went up this past fiscal year, and I've heard about it going up in other communities as well. I'm just kind of interested in what you guys would do to support the technical school in Chelmsford region, if you have any ideas about that.
Mr. Lipoli?
Well, first of all, I value all education, and I think it's a travesty that we don't invite Neshoba and other technical schools in to give our kids an option. That seems to me like a little bit of an ego problem when a kid can't make a decision where he wants to go. Now, to that point, I'm not afraid to go to the technical schools and say, hey, listen, we need your help also. Let me explain what's happening in our system. But if we create that collaboration, and we have a conversation, and we talk, and we really are serious about transparency, then things will change. So I'm in favor of inviting them back in. I'm in favor of our kids having a choice. And you know something, if our kids leave and the money leaves with them, that's okay. We'll find another way. But at least our kids' primary focus, we thought about the kids first, we worried about the money second. I care about the kids. I want to make sure the kids have their choice.
Thank you. Ms. Zanini?
Well, my husband went to a tech school, and it's a great option. I mean, the kids have to come first, so we should give them all the options available for them and let them pursue their passion. If there's something that in Neshoba that can offer them, absolutely, we should, either bus them over or have Neshoba come in and do their presentation.
Thank
That's
you.
simple.
Very simple. Okay, Mr. Whiting, representing 980 WCAP.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question in part from the PARC standardized testing that uses computers. And I was just wondering, in both candidates, what is your vision in the future of the schools alongside with computers, as in computers in the classroom and teaching technology?
Ms. Zanini?
So computers should, I think very highly of computers in the classroom. In fact, when I went into Westland School, I didn't speak English, and I actually learned on a computer in the Title I room. So there is a place for it. It doesn't replace teaching. It's a supplement to it. My little one is struggling in reading, and last year I thought, let's get him a tablet. It's electronic. Maybe he'll read more. He'll be more stimulated to read. He turned it into a place where he goes and plays video games. So that didn't work. Again, it's part of our culture. It's not going away. I just need to, we need to make sure what the priorities are and how it helps and doesn't hinder our ultimate goal.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we're going to...
I didn't get the answer.
Oh,
Mr. Principal,
teacher.
Mr. Teacher.
What I need to do is turn in the diet ginger
We're
ale
getting
for
a
some
detention.
diet caffeinated drink. Mr. Lipoli.
Technology is our future, period. If you look across we're halfway in the entire world as far as education. We used to be in the top. We're right in the middle right now. Technology is our future. We should be putting technology in our school systems, in our kids' hands as early as possible. I believe in that. I'm passionate about that. And if we have to go to the state and explain that every single day, I want to be that champion. I want to be that person that yells and screams and holds my breath and say, our kids deserve that. Technology is the future. I get that sometimes technology in the homes aren't used correctly, but properly administered, like Anne Marie Fury, one of the rock stars of our community, says that technology for our children is essential. I just want you to understand that's how I feel about it. That's what I'll be pushing for, and that's what I expect. I expect our kids to understand technology as fast as they possibly can. That's the edge out there in the business world.
Thank you. At this point, we will go back to audience questions. And please, I ask the candidates if you can answer in less than 1 minute. That would be helpful. We'll get more questions asked. Many people feel the number one priority for the school system should be healing between teachers, administrations, and the town. Do you feel Dr. Tiano should be paid for the balance of the year but placed on administrative leave? And so an interim superintendent can be brought in to begin the healing as soon as possible. And we begin with Mr. Lipoli.
First of all, our school committee, and I'm still a taxpayer right now, and I'm an involved parent, our school committee made a decision and they made a deal with Superintendent Tiano, and I'm sure that deal is confidential. I'm positive that it's confidential. Having said that, that was yesterday's news. Where are we going in the future? What are we doing in the future to make sure our kids are going to have all the necessary tools that they have coming to them? So as far as I'm concerned right now, we have a severe PR problem. What we need to do is rally the teachers, bring them together. We need to speak to all the department heads. We need to go to the schools, not an email. I'm telling you right now, if I'm lucky enough to get put in on April 7th, I'm going to tell you, we're going to go to the schools. We're not emailing them. We're going to go see those teachers. We're going to go see those principals. We're going to understand what the problems are. We're going to settle things down. We're going to make everybody feel comfortable, because right now you need serious leadership. We have a serious problem here, a serious crisis. I promise you, these won't be the last people that want to leave our organization. There are people that are going to want to quit because they think we're not ready.
Thank you, Mr. Lipoli.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Certainly. Many people feel the number one priority for the school system should be the healing between teachers, administration, and the town. Do you feel Dr. Tiano should be paid for the balance of the year and put on administrative leave while an interim superintendent is brought in so that we can begin the healing?
So I do agree that the priority for the school should be, the healing between the teachers, administrators, and the town. I think, with this agreement, that's the first step. We need to look and move forward at this point. I don't know the details of the agreement. I know nothing other than what I saw in the press today. I do think that, we need to look and bring everyone together. I think we should start the look for a superintendent or an interim superintendent. I think one of the things that we need to do to help bring everybody back together is create a committee to hire that involves teachers, representatives from teachers, representatives from the town manager, people from, a representative from FinCom and a representative from the selectmen. I think all of us coming together during this process is a big step to move it forward for that healing to actually happen.
Thank you. Just what we need is more
Should I
questions.
bring my
here.
sleeping bag, Sam? We're going to be here for another hour.
All right, we'll begin this. This answer will come first from Ms. Tonini, and the question is, what are your attitudes toward Neshoba Tech and Innovation Academy? Please elaborate, and I'll compress a couple of questions. How do you feel about postgraduate courses, and how do you feel about the relationship between Neshoba and the sending high schools?
Well, I think I might have already answered this. So my husband, is a tech graduate, and he did go on to college after going to Keefe Tech. Again, it's the children are first. So we have to give them the options that allow them to succeed in life. And we should always, allow them, whether it's Neshoba or the
Innovation
Academy or the high school, we should give them the option and, and allow them to and promote it. We shouldn't be playing, discouraging them from going from one place or the other.
Thank you. Mr. Lipoli, please, Neshoba and Innovation Academy.
I also think we answered this question already, but let's just jump to this point. When the tech schools were funded by Chapter 70, I think this is really important. The reason the tech schools get a lot of money is because they weren't promoting college. This is way back when. Well, thank God they now are promoting college courses. They're giving AP classes. I think that's unbelievable. That's great, because that student inside that vocational school now has the option if he wants to go into a trade or he can continue to college. But the Chapter 70 was based on that child not going to college. We need to revisit that. We need to have that tough pushback conversation with the state of Massachusetts that things are changed. Don't forget, Chapter 70 was installed in 1993. There's been no changes. A little bit of a tweak here and there, but other than that, there's been no changes. Let's go back to the state legislators and say things have changed a little bit. Can we take a look at Chapter 70? I'm in favor of Neshoba. I think we should be doing the Innovation Center, Academy. I think all that stuff is great, but we need to understand Chapter 70 more as a result of it.
Thank you. All right, to Sal first. The ratio of teaching positions to non-teaching positions, according to the questioner, is 5.5 to 1. Do you think that is realistic given our budget constraints?
So can you repeat the question?
The ratio of teaching positions to non-teaching positions is 5.5 to 1.6. Do you think it is realistic given our budget constraints? I have no way to validate that number, but that's the question.
I don't think that's actually some numbers that are out there, so that's kind of a tough question because just humbly I disagree with that. But to the point of this, you have 704 employees within our school system. Now, that is encompassing everybody. So what is the ratio as it compares to the administrators, to the students, to the faculty, to the maintenance department? All those things have to be taken into consideration. As a member of the school committee, all I can tell you is this. I'll work hard to make sure your children have not what's okay or what the average is. I'll make sure your kids have the best ratio possible of teacher-pupil. As far as administration and pupil, only the administrators could help us answer that question. Let's stop trying to tell them what to do. Let's listen to what they need. And if we can listen to what the administrators lead, I promise they only have the best intentions at heart, which are our children. And I don't think we're doing enough listening. We're doing a lot of dictating. We're doing a lot of slashing, but we're not listening.
Thank you, Mr. Lupoli. Mr.
So
Neal?
I do know where those numbers come from, but they can be a little bit misleading because it also encompasses special need one-on-one teachers, so it can artificially lower the number. What you really need to look at, and we already kind of answered this before with the question about the lowering enrollment, is making sure that we use, we're always looking at our enrollment, at our educators. Do we have the right mix? Do we have the right class size? And are we maximizing it? Meaning, are we either through natural attrition, or do we open up to school choice and get more kids into the system to fill the gap?
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Anita. And again, in the interest of time and the many, many questions, I'm going to limit the response time to 30 seconds. So we're approaching a little lightning round.
Wow.
And the questions are, can you list the main characteristics you would look for in our next superintendent? Ms. Tonini, 30 seconds.
Sure. Obviously, we need a bridge builder, a communicator, someone who has had budgetary responsibility. For me, ideally, I would like someone who has already been a superintendent or held the position of superintendent. How's that? Just 30 seconds.
Mr. Lupoli.
Leadership, communicator, management. Those are the three qualities we need in a superintendent today. Yesterday, we need that quality. We don't need people to worry about the finances right now. We have a business manager to support the superintendent. Leadership, management, and being able to communicate. That's what we need today.
Thank you. Mr. Lupoli, what is your plan to address the Chapter 70 school funding inequities and inequalities? And do you think that the new GOP governor can help, says the asker?
First of all, any GOP governor or Democratic governor, when you talk about kids, all that political stuff is off the board. You talk about kids, there should be only one thing in favor for the kids. Chapter 70 is based on a growth factor. That growth factor was put into place in 1993. The growth factor never changed. You have school systems based on growth factor. See, Chelmsford had all their growth prior to 1993. Today, Billerica, $18 million. Westford, $16 million. Franklin, a comparative district, almost the same number of kids, $27 million. Does that sound like parity? It doesn't to me.
Ms. Tonini.
So the things that we need to change is we have to get ourselves around and working with other school districts, We're all feeling the pain. We need to increase the pie because no legislator is going to take away money from one person, or one school district to give it to Chelmsford. So the only way we can do this is as a team with other school districts going together, making sure that things are accounted for, like increased special ed costs that haven't been accounted for properly, and the increase in healthcare costs. Together, we need to move the legislator to give us a bigger pie, so then we can adjust the number.
Thank you. All right. How will you engage the community to improve our schools, Ms. Tonini?
Well, by being an advocate, being an advocate, and I've done, over the last 8 months, I have made quite a lot. What people who I now consider friends in the FinCom, selectmen, and it's by communication, being out there, making sure you're advocating for the school system, but also being very transparent. And I've always found what's helped me in my career is walking folks through the numbers. It's one of those things that people just kind of get. And if you walk them through from where you are, where you need to be, what's required, and it's clear cut, people understand, and that's what I would do.
All right, thank you. We're now going to go to a quick round of candidate-to-candidate questions.
His turn.
After Mr. Lapoli answers the question about Chapter 70 funding.
I don't think it was about Chapter 70.
No.
That wasn't the question, Sam.
Yeah, it says, what is your plan to address the state Chapter 70 school funding inequities?
No, Sam, we just answered that question. Then Anita got another question.
Yes, that's true. And I went off to that place.
What's your
So,
favorite color?
Red.
what was the last book that you read?
Abraham Lincoln. A house that is divided cannot stand. I don't know what the question was, Sam. Can you repeat that? Anita, do you remember the question?
I have no idea.
The asker of the question. Can the asker of the question repeat the question? Do you remember the question
It
you
was
just
about,
answered, Anita?
yeah, it was about,
Yes, how are you going to
Yes,
advocate for
advocate
the schools?
School.
How are you going to bring the community to
Together.
support the schools? How are you going to be an advocate?
So the first thing I would do is go into the school systems, and go meet with the teachers, and go meet with the leaders of our schools. We have a severe PR problem, and I think the first thing we need to do is to realize that and ask questions of what we need to do to make things better. I got to tell you the truth. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been involved in our schools for 10 years. I've seen a lot of things take place, and I think it's a good thing that we need to start celebrating our successes. We don't do a very good job of that. One of the first people on the turf fields, and just to come back to the turf fields, was Allie and the band coordinators. That's a good thing. We need to tell people all the good things that we're doing across the board. I
Thank
think
you.
that was the question.
That was the question.
That
And
was the question.
now we are going to go to a bit of a lightning round candidate to candidate. And Ms. Tonini is going to begin with a question to Mr. Lapoli.
all right. Sal, I'm still struggling on trying to understand your plan on where we're going to get the money. So you say don't touch the technology, don't review contracts to save money there, don't touch headcount. We're still short $618,000, so we need to go to the town and get money. But where's the town going to get the money? What budget or what line item in the town are we going to take it out of if we don't, what you're saying is don't touch the school?
30 seconds.
So I'm not in favor of cutting teachers, and that's the solution. The solution was to cut 6 people. 6 people, the solution was. Yeah, I'm in favor of exactly what the school board told me they were going to do. I'm in favor of building a rapport with the selectmen, with the finance department, with and I've met with them before. The selectmen, the treasurer, the manager, the principals, the town business manager, the teachers, the middle school teachers. I've communicated all with them. We need to bring all those players in, and we need to tell them about our problem, and we need to communicate. Can those other boards help us? I think they can. They just need to be asked. We don't ask.
Thank you. Mr. Lapoli, a question to Ms. Tonini.
Ms. Tonini, you talked about, your last point was we need to speak to the legislators about moving Chapter 70.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to know, what experience do you have in speaking to legislators That was your statement, ma'am. What experience do you have in doing that, and who would you go to?
Well, I would get in touch with our Senator Barrett. I have experience in talking to investors, so that translates very easily to legislators. I'm not afraid to walk in there. I'm very good friends with Kevin Murphy, who was a legislator, and when I wanted to bring manufacturing into the United States, I called him up, picked up the phone, and asked him, is there anything that could justify bringing manufacturing out of China and into Massachusetts? And I was working with Mac to see if I could get any credit. So I've done this, and I'm not afraid to do it.
Thank you. Ms. Tonini, a question to Mr. Lipoli. 30 seconds. Thank you.
More questions? Okay, I'm still, let's go back to the 618,000, because I don't think you answered it for me. I'm trying to understand, we're going in front of town meeting at the end of the month. If we're not touching the school budget, what line item of the town budget are we going to affect?
Well, I think you've already started to talk about some of the solutions, which I believe in. I mean, here's the deal. NRT for the past several years has not gone out for bid. Do you realize that we paid them over $500,000 no bid? Is that acceptable to you? Because it's not to me. Right there, I think there's an opportunity. We've talked about Kelly Services. Right now, we need to take that in-house because that's a $700,000 bill. If we take it in-house, they're charging you 30 cents on every dollar. They're charging you over $200,000 as the middleman. There are some of the things I would do within the system to make sure our teachers don't get cut.
Thank you. Mr. Lipoli, a question to Ms. Tonini. Ms. Tonini, 30 seconds.
Questions?
Ms. Tonini, you're aware that the business world brought into the school system, you can use practices, but you cannot run a school system like a business. You can't cut divisions like you can in a business. You can't cut curriculum like that. You talked about your ability to speak to legislators. The people you mentioned was a town manager and a state senator. We have four representatives right now. We have Nagel, we have Tommy Golden, Archero, and we have Corey Atkins. What would you do to them, and what would be the message, not to a town manager in Lowell?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
What would you do to get money? You said you would go to the legislators.
so-
What legislators would you go to, and what would you say to them? Because I'm sure the people in this room have already gone to those legislators. What would you do differently?
I would work as a team with other school committees in this town, because everybody's feeling the same pressure. Only in numbers can you move things. One person cannot change. One person, one phone call is not going to give us more money. But a group of people will do that, and only together can we do that.
Thank you. Last question, candidate to candidate, Ms. Tonini to Mr. Lipoli.
Another question?
I don't even.
Isn't it time?
While Ms. Tonini and Mr. Lipoli are searching for a question, we'll get one question each from our members of the press. Mr. Lewis, a question from the Lowell Sun.
I'm good right now. Not to, make this any worse, because that's not what I'm trying to do. but
You're not helping.
I know I'm not helping. I'm going to
Mr.
defer to my buddy over here.
Right. Mr. Whiting.
So given both of your individual business backgrounds, how do you plan to apply that to the future of the Chelmsford schools?
And we'll start with Ms. Tonini.
So my background in startups, I'm used to not having enough money. And my whole is always trying to stretch every dollar. So that's what I bring in. I bring in that mentality of, making sure we maximize our dollars so we can get the best bang for the buck. As well as, the transparency. I'm reporting to the board members. I have to be transparent, clear, concise, and make it so everyone understands. I can be sued, and personally, they can come after me. So, that's what I bring.
I've been in business for 25 years in the same business. I know how to create a business, start it, and grow it. I know how to work with people. I have almost 1,000 individuals in our organization. 25 years, sustainability. That's what our school system needs. Our school system doesn't need to take a look at this and run it like a business or run it like a startup, because I have firsthand knowledge about startups. You know what startups do when they can't make money? People get fired, period. So with sustainability companies like myself, 25 years in experience, we've grown our company from 2 individuals to almost 1,000. That's what we need today.
Thank you. And I will ease the pain of the candidate to, I'll still ease the pain of the candidate-to-candidate questions by asking a last question, having gone through these. This is the only kind of a question that hasn't been answered, so I will ask, and Mr. Lipoli will go first. What do you think your major role as a member of the Chelmsford School Committee will be?
I'm one of 5 people. In order to be successful, you have to play as a team. So one of 5 people. All I want to bring is my voice, my opinion, and I also want to leverage the relationships that I've built, because one of the things I think I can do effectively is reach across those political lines and get the major players in the state of Massachusetts to listen what's happening to your children. I can do that. With all due respect, it's not going to get done by 4 different legislators and a senator from outside our district. Chelmsford is the tail end of all politics.
Ms. Denini?
Politicians.
So the responsibility of the school committee is they have to advocate for the school, right? They have to be a voice for the school. They manage the strategic plan by managing the budget, and they hire the superintendent. That's the role of the school committee.
Thank you, Ms. Denini. I've been asked to go back to the unfinished. We did have a certain number of questions, candidate to candidate. So not to put you on the spot, Ms. Denini, but we want to stay to format. So do you have one more question for Mr. Lipoli? Or do you have a question
Why
of
don't we go
Ms. Denini? Of-
I do.
First,
If
A question,
it's okay
Mr.
with my opponent, I'll do whatever she says.
go ahead, you can go first. I maybe think of one.
On several occasions, I was asked by not only my opponent, but out there, that about a pizza contract that we have. And the first thing I did prior to even answering that question is I called the state ethics committee, and I asked them what was right and what was wrong. So my question to you is, 65% of the entire school budget deals with the teachers and their pays. 65%. Have you, following transparency, have you contacted the state ethics committee, told them the situation you're in by having a relative that's a teacher? And if you have, are you aware that you cannot be involved in any discussion or any contract negotiations? You can't even talk about it at school committee hearings. Are you aware of that? And did you speak to the ethics committee?
Yes, I did. I also spoke to other school committee members, not just in Chelmsford, but in other districts, to get their opinion. Again, my career and my livelihood depends on there not being anything fishy or any of that. No one will hire me to manage their money if that were the case. And I disclosed it when I pulled my papers. And yeah, I'm fully aware of it, and the answer would be I would recuse myself from those negotiations. I bring a lot more than just negotiating a contract. I bring a vast of abilities to the school committee that they don't have now.
Thank you, Ms. Denini. You're not required to ask a question, so if you wish, there's time for one last question.
What personal characteristics that you have will allow you to work collaboratively with other members of the school committee?
Leadership. Leadership, because with leadership comes a sense of responsibility. And with the responsibility of leadership is to listen. Great leaders don't come in and dictate. Great leaders come in and they listen and they work with boards. That's how our company has grown from one employee to 1,000 employees, because I know how to listen to my team. And that's how teams work, when you listen and you work together. You don't dictate, you listen.
Thank you, Mr. Lipoli. All right, we've come to the end of all of our rounds, and we are on time. So we will wrap things up with a closing statement from each candidate. The closing statement will be 1 minute. And back to the coin toss on my number. Ms. Tanini will begin the closing statement because Sal asked for the last word.
Thank you. I would like to thank Sam Bolton for moderating and the Democratic Town Committee for holding this debate. I would like to thank everyone who came out tonight and those people who are watching from home. I would also like to thank everyone for their support and encouragement, especially my husband, Stephen, my two sons, Dante and Andre, who are watching. I would also like to thank Sal for joining me in discussing these important issues and making this campaign so interesting. It is a critical time in our school's history. I have been a strong advocate for some needed change. At the same time, I've provided positive solutions. I want to continue to do so as a member of the school committee. I have 2 children in our schools. I am interested in the quality of education for my son as well as other children in Chelmsford. I would appreciate your vote on April 7th for school committee. My name is Anita Tanini, and I would be honored to serve the citizens of Chelmsford. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanini. Mr. Lapoli.
It's a little too late now, Bob. Yeah, I deferred to choose to go last, sir.
Excuse me. I know that the moderator has made a couple of errors, but
This is incredible.
the moderator, should Mr. Joyce and Mr. Lapoli wish to step outside and discuss something.
No, I don't want to go down.
As I
I'll be
said,
all over Facebook.
as
being a
I
bully.
said, just like a coin toss, the choice was, do you want to go first or do you want to go last? He wanted to go last. Yes. And I'll tell you, we checked the inflation of every football before we began throwing the passes. Now, Mr. Lapoli.
I love your kids. I love my kids. I love doing what I'm doing. I've been doing it for 10 years, sacrificing myself, time, and energy for our children. And no matter what anybody says, I've allocated the right time that was needed, and I prioritized. I prioritized for our children. Period. That's it. I'm loyal to your children. I'm going to fight hard for your children. I'm going to give you what we need right now. I am going to give you passion, and I am going to give you commitment. And that's what I believe in. I believe in every one of our kids deserve the best. We will get the best. I will work tirelessly for that. I need your vote, though, in order to do that. I need your vote April 7th. I respectfully ask for it, and I look you in the eyes and tell you how passionate I'll be for your children. I'll look you in the eyes and tell you what's right and what's wrong. I'll look you in the eyes, and I'll take on tough challenges, but most of all, I'm going to give you everything I got like I always have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we can have a big round of applause. And I want to express my thanks to both candidates for giving us a very informative and entertaining 55 minutes of head-to-head. So another round of applause for the 2 candidates for school. I hope the school committee candidates won't go away. Right now, we're going to set up for the selectmen's debate, and that will begin in about 3 minutes. I've been asked to make the following announcement. Effective this town election, April 7th, 2015, voters in precinct 2 and 3 will be voting at the Senior Center in North Chelmsford. Could we... excuse me, those of you in the hall, I want to remind everybody that we have no control over the live broadcast. So if you feel you're done tonight and wish to leave before hearing the selectmen, please do so quietly. We have some announcements that we need to make. The Harrington School will not be open for voting. Precincts 1 and 9 will be voting at the large gym in the McCarthy School. The town hall will not be open for voting. Precincts 4 and 6 will be voting at the large gym in the McCarthy School. The Westland School will not be open for voting. I'm going to call one of our registers of voters forward while I set up the selectman candidates, and he will go over the polling changes. Mr. Tom Fall. Tom, please join us. Right now, we are going to take a break from our live programming and our live broadcasting. You're listening to 980 WCAP and watching us on Chelmsford Cable 99 on Comcast. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
What do you want me to do?
When we start, read that. To the crowd.
I hope to see a large turnout at the elections this year. Thank you.
Of the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee, welcoming you to the second half of our candidates debate. We've just enjoyed a very spirited, informative, and I think entertaining first hour. We had our school committee candidates. We're now going to be joined by the 4 candidates who are running for the Board of Selectmen. To my right, We have the two incumbents, and they are George Dixon and Pat Wojcik. And to my left, the two challengers, Louis Marino and Laura Merrill. A round of applause for people who are running for office. As we said during part one, the goal of the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee in town elections, which are nonpartisan, are to give candidates maximum exposure to voters and make sure that the maximum number of people do in fact vote. We feel that nothing is more important to protecting our democracy than a well-informed and participating electorate. A very low voter turnout has been predicted. We hope that this does not happen. The election is Tuesday, April 7th, a week from yesterday. And Mr. Fall announced the changes in the polling places, which is making things a little more difficult than usual. I encourage everyone to get in touch with the town clerk, the registers of voters, and other people in government to ensure you know when and where to vote. I want to commend the four people that are in front of you. It is more and more difficult to run for elective office. I'm proud of our town in that these debates are set up to be informative and not create dissent and controversy. We had a great first debate, first hour. I know we're going to have an even better second hour. So, as we did before, I am going to ask quickly, I'm going to give you all a card, and I'd like you all to respond to this. I'm not going to think of the same number, so I'm thinking of a number from 1 to 10, and if you'll just write down your number, we'll know the order in which we'll open. Do I have everybody's card? This is the way the night is going to go, I know. All right, the number that I wrote down was number 7. The person who came up with number 7, exactly, terrific, very nice. We have a number 8, we have a number 2, and we have, what is the last number? Another number 7. So we have a tie. We have 2 number 7s and an 8. But the 7s are a tie. So I will again throw them up in the air. I'll again ask you to just to state another number. What number?
4.
1 to 10. 4.
8.
8 again. Who had the other 7? Who has?
I did.
You did. 4, he said. You say 3. Okay. The number was.
You didn't ask George his number.
No, George wasn't in on this. The number
Oh.
was 2, so you were closest. So, do you wish to begin? Do you wish to begin, or do you wish to end?
I'll
Defender
defer.
left, defender
You'll
each
defer.
will-
You'll go last.
Yes.
Defer means she wants to go last, Mr. Joyce. Okay. So, all right. We will open then with Mr. Marino, Ms. Merrill, Mr. Dixon, and Ms. Wojcik. A 1-minute opening statement. Mr. Marino.
Hello, I am Louis G. Marino. I'm running for Board of Selectmen. I am the husband and father of 2 beautiful girls, 4 and 14. I've lived in Chelmsford 5 years. I'm manager or owner of a small business here in town called Mass Investigations and Recoveries. I serve town meeting as a Precinct 5 town meeting representative and on the Chelmsford Recycling Committee. I bring a view of a small business owner that knows how to keep balanced budgets in order and to stay business. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in law enforcement from West New England College. I have an MBA in criminal justice administration, plus a minor in forensic science. One of my businesses, Mass Investigations and Recoveries, is a business in which I must perform background checks, investigate other services in the forensic field. To face these skills make me uniquely qualified to serve as a selectman. I have the ability to research issues, find problems, and bring them to light so that the people of Chelmsford know exactly what is going on.
Thank you. Ms. Merrill?
Hi, my name is Laura Merrill, and I'm a 20-year resident of Chelmsford. I have 2 children in the Chelmsford public school system. I grew up in Shrewsbury and moved to Chelmsford because it was an affordable community with great schools, open space, and a lot of amenities. I have 20 years business solutions experience. I'm a problem solver, and I approach each problem with an open mind. My job is to work with a lot of different departments, finance, operations, and all the sales, try to work to make sure that everyone's needs are understood, understand how they work together, and try to put together policies and solutions within the given budget. I'm a town meeting precinct 2 town meeting representative. I'm in my 2nd term, and I am frustrated because I hear a lot of people telling me at town meeting that we can't save money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dixon?
Thank you. Hi, my name is George Dixon, and thank you all for being here this evening. I've lived in Chelmsford my whole life. I'm one of 4 generations. I'm married to my wife Terry, and we have 2 grown children. My son John is 45, and my daughter is 37. I was educated, we were all educated in the Chelmsford schools. We're very proud of that. After high school at Chelmsford, I went to Lowell Tech at the time, and I got a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Most of my career was in the real estate development business. I've served on many other boards and committees in the town of Chelmsford. I've served with a lot of you people out here, and some of which I was on the Sewer Commission, I was on the Parade Commission, 350th Parade Commission, Affordable Housing Commission, whatever. Currently, I'm on the Board of Selectmen, two of which I was chair, and 2 of the most tumultuous times in the town of Chelmsford, 2 of the most tumultuous years. I believe that I'm battle-tested, I'm ready to go. We're going to face some tough times, and I think I'm the candidate for the re-election. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Ms. Wojcik?
Thank you. My name is Pat Wojcik. As is the case with George, I grew up in town. My family's been in Chelmsford for over 100 years now. I'm a proud graduate of Chelmsford High School, class of 1970. After high school, I went to UMass Amherst, where I received a bachelor's degree. And while there, I was enrolled in the Air Force ROTC program. So when I graduated from UMass Amherst, I was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in the Air Force. The Air Force decided that I would make a good computer programmer, so that's what I did. That's a trade that I've used since then in my private endeavors. After my active duty service in the Air Force, I was discharged in Oklahoma. I stayed there for a little while to get my master's of my MBA at the University of Central Oklahoma. I then came back to Chelmsford, started my own consulting business, and as time went on, I decided that I had enough time to devote to townwide elective office. So that's how I get to be on the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Ms. Wojcik. All right, we will begin our audience questions, and I would remind everyone that this is an audience participatory debate. So if you have questions, please pass them down. We don't have as many questions for our selectmen as we did for the school committee members, so I will begin by giving them 2 minutes to answer the questions, and I believe we have a couple more coming down. Please send your questions forward so that we can get them to our candidates. All right, carrying right on from the school committee debate, our first question, which will be answered first by Mr. Dixon, is what are your plans to address state funding inequities that exist? And how do we correct the underfunding that all of Chelmsford endures, not just the school department? We are underfunded, this questioner says. Mr. Dixon?
What are your plans, underfunding?
What are your plans to address the state funding inequities that give us less money than other communities? Fewer dollars.
Well, I guess we have to petition the legislatures. There's no doubt that our local aid has not been increased in over 5 years. So that's what happens with taxes. I mean, our expenses keep going up and we don't get any income. We either get income from the state or the levy. So we've had to increase the levy, unfortunately. I guess what we got to do is rally the legislatures, our state senator, and our 4 representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Ms. Wojcik?
Well, we definitely do have to advocate our legislative delegation to increase local aid. The amount that we're getting, it seems to, granted, it does increase a little bit every year, but the net increase this year is something like $28,000, which is even less than a drop in the bucket. It seems that the economy is improving, and the state in general is receiving more revenue. It's unfortunate that it seems that they're not willing to share that with the municipalities, and it's always been my opinion that the lower the level of government that has the money, the more effective they are at spending it. What costs $1,000 for the town would cost $10,000 for a state, would cost $100,000 or more at the federal level. So I think as much local aid as could be filtered down to the municipalities, the more effectively it would be used. And obviously we know where the needs are, so we would best be able to use it.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
We need to reduce our capital budget from $3.1 million to $1.5 million, to reduce our yearly commitments, prioritizing capital projects, becoming a gadfly to the not just the Mass DOE, but to our state legislators, our governor's office, until they want to fix not just the broken Chapter 70 funding, but give us more that what we deserve in local aid, and I will do this on a weekly basis. A system which cheats Chelmsford of the proper share of not just education funding, but also our local aid funding and any other funds that we need to be able to survive in this town without raising our taxes. And as a member of your Board of Selectmen, I will not raise taxes.
Thank you. Ms. Merrill?
Well, I obviously, I would recommend that as Board of Selectmen, I would personally be reaching out to all 4 of our representatives as well as State Senator. One of the concerns that I heard, I have when I heard Mike Barrett speak the other a month or 2 ago in front of the League of Women Voters, was that he called Chapter 70 a pretty much of a dead issue because the other towns would have to relinquish their funds in order for us to get our fair share. I think that while we have state leaders in place with these kind of attitudes, it's going to be extremely difficult to increase the funding, and we need to work towards making sure that the state overall revenue increases so that we start to get more trickle down.
Thank you. All right. Our next question will be answered beginning with Ms. Merrill. How do you plan to cut taxes and maintain services?
I think the first thing that we need to do is look at our capital improvement spending. Based on what I'm seeing for numbers this year at $3.3 million, we're looking at a 32% increase from about 3-4 years ago in capital improvement spending. After we try to bring our capital spending down from 3.3 to 2.5, as I would look at some kind of consolidations and regionalization plans to try to save there. And at that point, after that, I would start looking at every stone that we have. Would leave no stone unturned. I would look at, do we need hiring freezes? Do we need to have salary freezes? Where are we going to? We have to stop our spending, because we're not going to be able to live in this town if we continue at this rate. I've heard many residents with the same concern. We are pressuring, we're making this town unaffordable for our seniors and our future generations.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. How do you plan to cut taxes and maintain services?
We need to craft new ways to bring residents into town and more smaller businesses in the town while maintaining our small town feel, so that we can expand our tax base and bring in more revenue. We can do this by particularly offering TIFs or tax incremented financing to attract small businesses to locate to Chelmsford and to allow existing small businesses which own property to expand. Draw in arts-related businesses such as galleries, small retail stores to attract tourism, new residents. These will all bring money to our tax base, money to our meals taxes, new sources of revenue, without having to cut the services we so desperately need and want. Chelmsford will also is well suited as an arts community, with our nationally recognized being awarded as a National Association of Music Merchants the best community for music education. We must take advantage of this designation, and again, which since the last debate, I found out we did apply for a cultural district with Massachusetts Cultural Council and was denied. I think we need to bring ourselves up so we can get that. Applying for that will offers us tax services, incentives to help develop a creative economy. Our town is so ideally suited for this type of development. I think if we find other revenue sources, we can bring more money into this town where we don't have to cut services. Cutting services is the very last drastic measure. We want to give the town even better services if we can, and we can do that by finding other alternative sources of bringing more money into town.
Thank you. Ms. Wojcik?
Just one note on what Lou just mentioned about the cultural district. We have not been denied that cultural district designation. We've been informed about things that are required before they will grant that. So we're hoping maybe by the end of this year we can have all those things finished and get that designation, which, as Lou mentioned, it will be a benefit to the community and probably would attract more tourists and others into town and to use some of our resources. But to get to the question, I believe that the level of services that we have that are provided now are adequate and appropriate to this community and what the residents have come to expect. As far as our taxes, there's not been any hint of having any kind of Proposition 2.5 override being proposed anytime in the near future or even distant future. Right now, as far as our debt, we do have a significant amount of excluded debt, which is being paid down. And excluded debt is that which cannot be rolled over into a new project. And we're reducing that by about $500,000 every year. And that'll go on for the next several years. So even though we won't see taxes physically go down, we won't see them go up as much as they otherwise would have without that reduction in that excluded debt.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon?
Well, to me, it's plain and simple. You can't cut taxes and maintain the services. It just can't happen unless the state gives us more aid, and we haven't had any luck in 6 years. Again, it goes back to our legislators. It goes back to our state senator and our 4 state reps. Pat and I were both on the board when we did increase the meals tax to 3/4% and the hotel tax for local tax, which brings in about an additional roughly almost $1 million. It probably will make $1 million next year. But as far as maintaining services and cutting taxes, it doesn't work unless we get more money, more revenue. It just doesn't. Just numbers don't work. We have expenses that our insurance expenses went up 7.3% this year. We have 650 roughly employees, either current employees or retired employees that we benefit. We're paying 70% of their insurance. We can't control the weather. We were up $700,000 on the over budget on our snow plowing. You know, I don't know how you can maintain the services and cut taxes unless the government comes up with the money. I think it's very simple.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. All right, the next question will be answered first by Mr. Dixon. Do you think it makes sense to try to get $5 million from the state to update Chelmsford Center while our bridges are falling down?
Well, first of all, I think they come from two different departments, Sam. I believe the committee that did the work on the $5 million grant for the center revitalization did a tremendous job, and I think it would be a tremendous increase to business, to our economy in the center of town. I mean, anywhere from a footpath bridge from the Billerica Road area all the way to Summit, to the parking lot where the old Stop and Shop is, which is now the new shopping center over there with the new restaurants and what have you, to the revitalization with some facade programs and things like that. It would be fantastic. I do not believe they come out of the same committee at the state level. And as far as fixing the bridges in the states, I don't think they can print enough money for that. But they better get started on that very quickly. But I think it's apples and oranges.
I would certainly agree with that last comment, Mr. Dixon. Ms. Wojcik.
I think that's basically true. I mean, the $5 million that was voted in the last legislative session was bonded under a different, I guess, law basically than what would be for repair of bridges. And that $5 million, I'm hoping that the current governor will release those funds so that we can start making some of those improvements in the center village area. I think that would definitely attract more people there. And getting back to the cultural district designation, they said that would definitely help us along as far as getting that. As far as the roads and bridges, the ones that we control locally can be repaired using Chapter 90 funds, which we got a little boost in that this past month in March of almost $180,000 to fill some of the potholes around town and some of the potholes around bridges too. So that helps. And the governor has also promised to increase the total Chapter 90 funds for highway and bridge improvement, infrastructure improvement. So we expect to get a significant amount of money from that, hundreds of thousands of dollars that we then can use, our DPW use to help with repairing roads, bridges, and sidewalks.
Thank you. Mr. Marino.
I think the $5 million that's been slated for the center revitalization, I think that's going to go a long way to generating more revenues into town. But I also think that we need not just more Chapter 90 funding. I think we need to look at the plan of, we're on a 5-year plan to do our roads. I think we need to shorten that because a lot of the roads in town are bad. I think more than just certain ones in a 5-year period need to be done. Maybe looking at reducing that to a 3-year plan.
Thank you. Ms. Merrill.
I think that it would be absolutely great if we can get that $5 million released for our town center and continue with the plan that we've put forth. But the question itself actually makes me think of a lot of the problems that Chelmsford is facing directly, and it just kind of at a larger scale. Can we afford to revitalize one area and also maintain another? And the state is going to have to make a decision whether or not they can afford to do both. I think as residents and taxpayers and as town leaders, we're going to have to come to have similar decisions of where our priorities are and what we really can't afford.
Thank you. As we go forward, I think you've all noticed that we now have many, many more questions. They came a little late, but I welcome them coming. So I'll now limit responses to 1 minute. Ms. Merrill, what do you consider the top 3 priorities for you to concentrate if you're concentrate on if you're elected to the Board of Selectmen?
Fiscal responsibility and accountability while trying to slow the growth of property taxes, slowing development growth, and trying to make sure that Chelmsford does not become a city, protecting and preserving our resources at the same time, and working to improve the communication and coordination between the 3 boards and the town manager.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
The first and foremost, I want to see action begin to provide tax relief to our residents. I've already discussed how this can be achieved. My number 2 priority would be I'd like to see the Chelmsford Center Village Master Plan completed, or at least on its way towards completion, and if completed, implemented, and also the one for the North Village. I want to see the Board of Selectmen offering incentives to businesses to attract more businesses to town. If it means tiering the property tax system over a 5-year period, then that might be a program to look at. Assisting small businesses, particularly those related to the arts, providing small business and training to entrepreneurs looking to relocate to Chelmsford, and bringing more people in to volunteer. We have 14 positions open in town meeting this year and not enough people running. Attract more people, make it incentive for them to reinvest their time into their town.
Thank you. Ms. Wojcik?
I guess my top 3 would be, one is always the financial situation of the town as far as the budget. We have limited resources. We have to allocate them fairly across all departments, not just the schools, but all the other departments are always wanting more, want to be able to do more, and we have to be able to allow them to do more with the funds that are available. I also would try to engage more residents in the community, encourage them to apply for some of the committees that we have. There's always something out there I know that interests every resident of this community, and I'm sure if they took a look at all the committees that we have, they would find something that they'd be interested in serving, and they could bring some value to those committees. And lastly, I would try to see if there are any efficiencies within the municipal and the school side, to see if there's anything like that we could implement. Maybe have some kind of, some kind of a group that could identify ways that we could improve our operations both on both sides of the.
Thank you, Ms. Wojcik. Mr. Dixon?
Thank you, Sam. I think one of the top priorities would be economic development, trying to establish. We have an economic development committee, and I think we have to get a little bit more active with it. I think that we have some empty space in town. We have other areas where we could build if we had to build. And I'd like to bring more business and expand the tax rate, the tax base. And also bring in more people as employees, which would help the economy in town. Communication is a big problem right now. I don't feel as though, I feel as though maybe starting recently with the tri-board meetings, et cetera, and keep them ongoing. I think that would be a great asset. And as far as my vision I had for the town was to get more the younger people involved, and have more people on committees, and have them understand just how difficult it is to make decisions. It's not as easy as just sitting there and criticizing people.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. All right. Thank you very much, audience. This is our last audience question for now. And we'll begin with Mr. Dixon. Are you satisfied with the relationship between the Chelmsford Public Schools, the Board of Selectmen, and the Neshoba Tech? how would you improve this relationship if it needs improvement?
Am I satisfied? There's always room for improvement, Sam. You sit on the board. We watched the contentious finance board meeting with your board last evening. I think sometimes some egos have to be swallowed, to be very honest and blunt about the whole thing. I do think there's some things that could be explained a little bit better. I think it's a great school. It's a great asset for the town. It's great for the children. It's a great option for our youth. I think our finance committee does a great job. I'm sure our representatives do a great job from up there, but I think you guys got to work together more closely, and everybody's got to swallow their pride and sit down and come to some common ground, because that's what it is. It's been that way for a long time, and it's got to stop because it just isn't working.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Ms. Wojcik.
I agree with much of what George has said. The relationship definitely needs to be improved. I think that can maybe be best achieved by having more face-to-face meetings, even if they're one-on-one. And I know last night at the Finance Committee meeting, there was a suggestion that 2 members of the Finance Committee actually go to Neshoba and sit down with the superintendent and the business manager there to get answers to their questions. And I think that'll help. I think sometimes when you get such a large group together from disparate sides of the table, that it just it breeds into that discontent. And I would definitely like to see that level brought down. I'd like to see much more communication. It is a great school. It's a great opportunity for the kids in Chelmsford to go and learn a trade, and even to go on to college from there. So I want to maintain the relationship we have with the kids, and definitely improve the relationship between the boards.
Thank you. Mr. Marino.
Having a daughter that's 14 years old, 8th grade, she's looking to high school next year. She's looking at other alternatives to high school, such as vocational schools, trade schools. And I think it's a very important school asset to our town, and I think we need to put, as my other 2 opponents said, that we need to put our egos aside. Communication need to open up. Even maybe invite a couple members from the Neshoba board to the tri-board meetings, and then they're meeting with all 3 boards, and we're doing it for the kids. It's all about the students at both schools. We need to think about them, put what we're here for and what we want to accomplish with both schools, and bring them on board. They're part of our community, and we're part of their community, so we have to work together for our kids.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Merrill.
From what I can see at town meeting, it seems as though there's a competition between the Chelmsford Public Schools and the Neshoba Tech, and I find it's very difficult to listen to some of the debates going on about how many students are getting to go to one school versus another, when it's really about the children and their future. I have a 13 or 12-year-old daughter who's in 7th grade, and she would love an opportunity to go over to Neshoba Tech to see what's going on over there, to consider that for a possible high school. And the fact that we don't have that program anymore to allow the students to learn about the different opportunities is a shame. I would like to see that we start looking at putting the budgets together with the knowledge that this is for the children's benefit, and not that we're fighting over pennies between each other, between the boards. Thank you.
Thank you. Now my favorite part of the debate. We'll have candidate-to-candidate questions. I'm going to ask you to limit your answer to 30 seconds. And I will ask each candidate to choose a candidate of whom to ask a question. And we'll begin with Ms. Merrill. Please choose a candidate and ask your question, Ms. Merrill.
Oh, gosh. I would, this question, can I ask to one or to all, or?
To one.
To one, okay. All right. Well,
we can, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, all right. George, have you ever taken campaign contributions from any town service providers? And if so, did you recluse yourself from the vote to award the contract?
Mr. Dixon.
Okay. I have campaign service providers. I guess there's a lot of service providers that have attended my parties, bought tickets. So I'd have to say probably the answer is yes. I don't think I'm any different than anybody else. I go to all the parties and I see the same people there. So I don't know how to answer that. I mean, nobody ever paid me for a vote or anything. If that's what the insinuation may be, if that's what the question is, no, people have come in and paid tickets like everybody else and been to my parties. That's all I know.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, choose a candidate, ask a question. Candidate, 30 seconds to respond.
I guess I'd call Lewis, LG. LG, I'd like to hear more about your version of the TIF, please.
Okay, well, not a problem, Mr. Dixon. I will do that for you. What we need to do is we need to take a TIF and put it in place. It's worked for other communities across the Commonwealth. And we tier the tax rate over 5 years, a percentage each year up till they get up to the what the tax rate is now. And what that will do is encourage them to grow. And as they grow, they'll bring more jobs into Chelmsford, more into the tax base.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wojcik, choose a candidate, ask a question.
Okay, my question will go to Laura. Laura, it's finally close to the end of this campaign. It's been definitely a long one, it seems to me. And I wonder if you've learned anything from the campaign and if you have any suggestions on how to make the process more effective.
Well, I have to say that I wasn't prepared for what a race it would be when I joined, but I think the one thing that I did really learn, and it was that just picking up the phone and talking to the residents is really the best way to find out what's on people's mind. I mean, I know that a lot of us are town meeting representatives, all four of us are, and we enter the meetings and we believe that we're representing the people, but we don't always have direct communication with everyone, and I think that that's important.
Thank you. Mr. Marino, a question to one other candidate. Choose your candidate, ask your question. Candidate, 30 seconds.
Yes, I'll ask Pat. Would you support a rule making it mandatory that selectmen recuse themselves from voting on any business that comes before the Board of Selectmen from which they would benefit financially during their term in office?
From which they would benefit financially, I think the Board of Ethics would probably recommend that you or require that you recuse yourself if you're going to benefit financially from it. So I think there's already a rule in place that says that.
All right, thank you. Round two on this. Mr. Dixon, a question to the candidates. Choose a candidate, ask the question. 30 seconds, candidate.
I'll ask Pat. Give me a question to ask.
I think she's ready. I think she's ready.
What does she like most about working with me?
Oh, boy.
Got to be the best question of the night.
I can't answer that in 30 seconds.
You have 30 seconds, Ms. Wojcik.
George is always there for the residents. That's what I like best about working with George. If somebody picks up the phone and calls him, you know you'll get a call back. You know he'll follow up on whatever needs to be done. It doesn't matter if you're a supporter of his or not. And I mean, I've seen that. And you know, if he needs to go to talk to a department in town offices or talk to the town manager, he does that. So I would say his accessibility and his relationship with the town residents is the best part of working with George.
Thank you. Mr. Marino, a question. Choose a candidate, ask the question. Candidate, 30 seconds.
George, will you support a rule banning former selectmen or elected office holders from any kind of involvement in any proposal coming before the select board or the Board of Selectmen that would require town funding, if they would benefit financially from a proposal during a period of 5 years after leaving office?
No, I would not support that. I believe the rule right now is 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. There is a rule in place, and I believe they cannot earn any money or benefit from any town activity within 1 year from serving. After that, I believe it's an open door for them.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. And Ms. Merrill.
My question is for Ms. Wojcik. Over the course of the campaign, you have mentioned several times about the meals and hotel tax as one of the accomplishments that's occurred during your term as Board of Selectmen. As the state legislature was responsible for making this available to us, and the town meeting representatives voted it in, what additional role did you play as Board of Selectmen to help push this through?
Well, I was a definite advocate for it. I remember that it was shortly after I came on the board that was made available, and a lot of people were resistant to implementing that. There was the fear that nobody would come to Chelmsford anymore to patronize our restaurants or our hotels, and I was pretty adamant that was a way that we could generate significant revenue and have it not really affect people very much. I mean, if you go to a restaurant and spend $100, it's 75 cents that you pay on your bill that comes back and stays in the town of Chelmsford. So I was definitely an advocate for that, and I think I was leading the fight on it.
Thank you very much. And now to the press, a question each, and we'll begin once again with the Lowell Sun. Mr. Lewis?
A couple of you, or maybe more, mentioned a little something about just being able to work with other boards, and moreover, just kind of working to, get egos and personal agendas out of the way. And I guess I'm curious on each of your ideas on, I guess, how would you work with other boards, town meeting members, in order to get that kind of rhetoric down and increase just more talk about the important issues? I know that's kind of a little bit of an esoteric question, but I think it's a really important part of being on the board, and just kind of working with people. What are your ideas on doing that best?
Ms. Wojcik, 30 seconds to answer the esoteric question.
That makes sense.
I think it's important for everybody who comes to a meeting to be prepared. And I think that limits the amount of rambling that people do when, so a lot of times if they're asked a question off the cuff and have to come up with an answer, you tend to ramble sometimes if you don't have something prepared. So I think preparation, exactly, and I think preparation is the most important thing. So to be sure that everybody who's coming into the meeting has all the required information they need so that they can discuss it intelligently and cogently.
Ms. Merrill?
I would encourage more discussion at the tri-board and meetings. I think that it's really important to hear everyone's idea, and people feeling as though their idea is important helps them become part of a contributor to the process. I want to encourage all of that going forward, and that would be my start.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
I think we need to get more people involved, and the way we do that is we encourage their ideas, their opinions through surveys, through the website, offer them more opportunity to make ourselves more visible and available to them to answer their concerns. If they see that their leaders are involved and concerned, they'll become more concerned and willing to volunteer more of their time, bring more their mention it more to their family and friends. Make it accessibility and accountability available to them.
Thank you. And Mr. Dixon?
Excuse me, but I don't know if I misunderstood the question. I thought initially were you talking about between individuals who had disagreements?
Yeah, more or less.
That's what I thought you
That's
meant,
kinda-
and
that's
rather
kinda-
than jumping
That's
off.
kind of where I was going
Okay.
with.
What-
How would you
And
deal
we're
with
down to a
individuals?
15-second response now, Mr. Dixon.
All right, I got 3 timeouts left, Sam. Just head-to-head meetings. No emails, no BS, just head-to-head, no phone calls. Sit down, both come up with common ground. That's all.
Outstanding, you succeeded. And our last question of the evening will come from Jay Whiting of 980 WCAP.
As briefly as possible, what's your plan moving forward to get Chelmsford more financially stable and then to get that money back into things like infrastructure and into the school systems?
Mr. Marino, 30 seconds.
Okay, one of the things we need to do is we need to build efficiencies in, for example, we need to merge the town finance department with the school finance department, which will save money during efficiencies by cutting redundant positions in both. We also need to find out more ways of generating income, such as I've stated before, and then taking that income and putting it back into things like infrastructure, roads, public safety, giving our policemen a contract.
Thank you. Ms. Merrill?
Right now, the easiest way that we can control our future spending is to try to control how much money we're adding to our long-term debt. Right now, we're currently at, we have about $86 million in principal that we owe. We still owe on the library, the center school, police and fire station, Sheehan Farm, turf fields, Varney Park, capital improvement budgets since 2005, sewer projects, Lewis Farm, both town halls, the ESCO energy project, and we need to stop adding more debt as we retire these bonds so that we can control growth of taxes.
Thank you, Ms. Merrill. And last but not least, Ms. Wojcicki.
Can you give me the question again? So I can answer it correctly?
Yes,
Yeah.
How to get Chelmsford more financially stable, and then how to, as quickly as possible, get that back into the infrastructure, into the school systems?
Okay, well, we definitely need to advocate for more funds from at the state level. As far as what we have available, we need to really be careful about how we allocate that across the different departments. We have to have a fair budget process. We need to, as has been mentioned before, we need to try to convince the legislature to pass another municipal reform bill, which will allow us other ways to generate revenue locally that stays here, so that we don't have to rely so much on the real estate tax.
Thank you. And we are rapidly running out of time, so it's now time for the closing statements of our...
Answer that question, Sam?
Certainly.
Would you like me to answer the gentleman's question?
You really want to answer the gentleman's
No, I don't
question?
really want to, but I want to be fair to everybody else.
Yes. Do you remember the question?
No, but you
Jay, repeat the question one last time.
How to get Chelmsford financially stable?
I know that. Chelmsford is financially stable as far as the stabilization fund is concerned. When I first came on the board, the stabilization fund was a little over $1 million. Right now, it's about $8 million. This is the first time we've had to use any portion of that, which we should use about $500,000 to balance the budget starting out the year. That stabilization fund increase has helped our bond rating go from AA- to AA+, which gives us about a half a percentage point interest on our borrowing power. So I think we're pretty stable right now.
Now I'll thank you, Mr. Dixon, and
You're welcome, sir.
we have wrapped up our questions, I think, in an exemplary manner, and it's now time for the closing statements of our candidates. First, Louis Marino.
Thank you, Mr. Polk. Thank you for moderating this event. Thank you to the Town Democrat Committee for putting this event on. Thank you for the WCAP, Chelmsford Telemedia, and thank you for everybody being here and watching it on TV. I will be an advocate for your interests, not my own. I bring new ideas, perspectives to the board. I will work to reform to bring more transparency and accountability to our town government. Your selectmen and elected representatives are not doing you any favor by listening or addressing your concerns. That is their job. If you have a problem or concern, my pledge is to be available to you day or night. With your help, we can make Chelmsford to remain a great place to live and raise a family. That is why I am running for the Board of Selectmen and humbly ask for your vote. People cannot currently afford the status quo in this town. So I secondly ask and would be honored to serve as one of your two elected Board of Selectmen elected this year on April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Merrill.
Thank you, Sam, and the Democratic Town Committee. Thank you for inviting us here. Thank you to the audience, both watching and listening at home. My name is Laura Merrill, and I'm running for the Board of Selectmen because I love Chelmsford and all that it has to offer my family, including the great schools, the open spaces, and residents that have pride in their community. I want to make sure that our residents continue to be able to afford and enjoy the quality of life that Chelmsford has to offer. I'm running because I'm not satisfied when I hear the town leaders say that it's too hard to try to save money. I've spoken to the residents, and their message is loud and clear. They're feeling as though they're getting taxed out of town, and they want me to become a Board of Selectmen member and help to slow the growth of property tax. I have the skills to help face the difficult budget challenges ahead of us, and I have the voting record in town meeting that proves that I'm a conservative spender. My name is Laura Merrill, and I respectfully ask for one of your two votes on April 7th for the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Thank you. George Dixon.
Well, thank you, Sam. You did a wonderful job as moderator. I'd like to thank the Democratic Town Committee. I'd like to thank WCAP Radio and the audience, so people for coming out and listening to this wonderful debate this evening. I would humbly ask for one of your two votes on April 7th. I've enjoyed the last 6 years representing you people. I don't think there's anybody here that could say that I never answered their call or never tried to help them. I'm not always able to make things happen, but I give it my best shot, and that's all I can promise you. And I humbly ask you for one of your two votes on April 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon. I want to thank the candidates.
Do I get to go?
I'm teasing. I noted the laughter when Mr. Dixon said you did an excellent job as moderator, so I couldn't resist. And I would
April 1st.
And I would remind everybody you took away the punchline. It is April 1st. So we'll now have the final closing statement from a very sharp Ms. Wojcik.
Thank you, Sam, and thanks to the Democratic Town Committee for sponsoring this debate this evening. I first of all want to recognize three people who have been on elected boards for many years who will not be on the ballot again this year. George Zaharoulis is leaving the Planning Board. Carol Sneeden is leaving the Board of Library Trustees after 12 years, and of course Nick DeSilvio from the school committee. So we want to thank them for their service. As George has mentioned earlier, it's not easy being on a board, especially an elected board. So we're glad that they were able to be on those boards for as long as they were. My name is Pat Wojcik. I've been honored to serve on the Board of Selectmen. I've been honored to have earned the trust of the voters, and I work hard every day to maintain that trust. I'll continue working hard to keep that trust and to be as an effective member of the Board of Selectmen as I possibly can. So I respectfully ask for one of your two votes on April 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause for our selectmen. Once again, as we conclude this very spirited and informative debate, tonight's debate has been sponsored by the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee, whose members are present, and 980 WCAP, who has donated the airtime. My thanks to Chelmsford Telecommunications. And once again, we believe that the best protection of the maintenance of our fine democracy is a well-informed and participating electorate. Nothing is more important than our right to vote. It must be exercised. The election is the 7th of April. Polls open at 7 a.m. They don't close until 8 p.m. Please go out and vote. And in closing, I would like to take note of the loss of someone who epitomized what I think both the Chelmsford Democratic and Republican town committees epitomize, and that is bipartisan cooperation to accomplish a common good. We can take different positions, we can debate, we can even argue, but if we're going to move forward, we have to find those things upon which we can agree. No one did that more or more often than Carol Clevin. And I want to note her loss. She will be missed. She was a Precinct 8 town meeting rep. I served with her on the school committee. We often disagreed on politics. We never disagreed on process. So in honor of her, again, get out and vote. And another round of applause for the candidates that put themselves out. Thanks for listening. And now back to our regular programming.